Jaemin, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Luke. Great to be here.
I recently just finished your book, Unhindered, and I'll get into it, but I feel like a lot of it, I resonated deeply with a lot of it, and I feel like a lot of it was speaking directly to me. How I wanted to start is basically a fairly broad question, and what do you think is the biggest issue holding most people back from living the life they want to live?
Well, I have branded myself the Insecurity Project, and so true to brand, but it is my core conviction that hidden and unresolved insecurity is the thing. It's the number one thing. I think it's probably one of the hardest things, but nevertheless, it is the thing that gets in the way, and what I've devoted my best adult thinking to help people understand and eradicate.
Yeah, sure. So can we start maybe by defining insecurity? What exactly do you mean when you say insecurity? Are you talking about anxiety? What are you speaking about there?
It really is the best place to start. And I think it's hilarious that, even though it sounds a bit offensive to say this, but no one actually knows what they're afraid of. And, try this on if you're listening, because people think they understand what insecurity is. And because of how it sits in their mind, it's kind of like, well, it's just part of being human. There's a bunch of messy stuff, a bunch of broken stuff, a bunch of scary stuff, and you can't really do anything about it, so you're no point even really talking about it or thinking about it. It just sits there and you do the best you can. But if you could just understand what it really is, I think you'd have a different opinion of then what to do with it. So when people start to lean into this idea that perhaps there is fear driving them, typically they imagine it's one of two things, either some kind of fear of failure or some kind of fear of rejection. And that pretty much sums up the essence of fear for both people. But neither of those are really the essence of fear. Like, no one's actually afraid of failing. It's the level beneath it, i.e., if I was to fail, then, having tried my best, then what does it reveal about me? Now I'm exposed. Now my failure has exposed me. Now you see me. So I'm actually more afraid of being seen because of my failure. Same as rejection. No one's actually afraid of being rejected. It's the personal implications. I.e., if I was to put my best foot forward and try and be loved and accepted by this person or this group of people, and they were to reject me, what does that prove is true about me? Clearly now people see that I'm not enough, I don't belong. And so insecurity is not these surface fears. Insecurity is the fear that my own worst opinion of me will be confirmed by you. So that's really useful, right? Because if insecurity is the fear of what's out there, then you've got to try and control everything that's out there. But if you realize that insecurity is just an opinion problem and it's my own opinion problem of me, then, okay, well, then it's only one thing I've got to solve now. Like, if I could examine my own opinion, then something could be done. And just one more thing to add on that, because all insecurity is created before we're 7, then we're not just dealing with an opinion of ourselves, we're dealing with the worst childhood opinion we formed about ourselves. So insecurity, just to redefine that, is the fear that my worst childhood assessment of me would be confirmed by the world. And so for fear of that ever happening, people run and they hide, they cover, they compensate, they prove and they defend. That's insecurity in a nutshell.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the before 7 thing. I mean, I'll tell you a bit about kind of how I got here and how I'm kind of obsessed with this self-help world and things like this. So during my 20s, I was extremely driven, but I was extremely unhappy. And I think I was driven because, like, my end goal was to be happy and fulfilled. And my internal story was, when you have achieved this, you will be happy and fulfilled. And that just, it basically never happened. And I would just achieve more, but the fulfillment would never come. And I think what's been the most useful for me is actually turning, like inspecting the idea of not being happy or not being enough or not being fulfilled, and actually trying to uncover where that's came from, rather than constantly striving for the next external gratification that might make me happy, right? And that led to some pretty brutal things in my 20s, like alcoholism panic attacks from just overworking. And talking to a lot of other entrepreneurs, this seems to be a fairly common story. How common do you think it is amongst, I guess, the clients you work with?
Oh, it's universal. No one escapes their childhood. Let me give it to you in 6 words, if I can sum up what I've just heard from you, and then everyone's version of this.
Sure.
So if you go all the way back to the beginning, every infant is born into a world, and their experience of that world is that they are loved and accepted and nurtured just because they exist. Even if it's not particularly well, their awareness is, I cry, someone comes, I'm hungry, someone feeds me, I'm cold, someone clothes me. And so their whole awareness of themselves is, I'm not performing, I'm not contributing, I'm not adding any value, and yet my needs are being met. So clearly I am enough, clearly I'm more than enough for this world, just by being here, not by doing anything. That's the starting point for every individual. It doesn't last for very long because, you come into the adult's world and all of a sudden you can't just be rewarded for doing nothing. You got to perform and fit in and behave. And so a child has their very first experience of being surprised that they couldn't just be themselves. Themselves wasn't enough. And so they're like, this is a problem with me. So first word in the 6 is actually, I mentioned insecurity as an opinion problem, but it's a little darker than that because the opinion takes on an accusatory tone. So word number 1 is accusation. Every infant assesses their own dilemma and like, why is this happening and what does it mean about me? The first time they're surprised or disappointed or, scolded or hear no, and they have to make sense of it, and they assume the problem was with themselves and they accuse themselves of being the reason. That's an accusatory tone. It's like, hey, listen, you are the reason. And they give it a name. You are weird, or you are weak, or you are stupid, or you are fat, or you are like, a child defines their own problem. One name above all others. Accusation. Now, it gets worse than that because then you kind of look at yourself and go, well, I'm the problem. Well, then I can't be me. So now I need to be better than me and different than me and other than me. So the second word is betrayal. The ideal me looks down at the real me and says, don't be you. Like, you are not enough. There's a problem with you. So now try and not be you. Word number 3 is certainty. Because when you agree with your own assessment, you get the chemistry of certainty. And it's useful to think about it like that because there's a difference between knowing something's right and fucking knowing it. It's like, I know I'm right. And so a child makes this assessment about themselves. This is the problem with me. Then they kind of agree with their own idea and they're certain now, I am right. So from that point, they must then build this strategy to not be me. So now I've got to work out how to be loved, how to be liked, how to be accepted, how to be validated. Is it going to be through sport? Is it going to be through money? Is it going to be through business? Is it going to be being liked? Will I be funny? Will I be cool? Like, what have I got to do to be accepted? And it becomes this strategy for living. And then the strategy gets so ingrained, it becomes the system. It's unconscious. Now you've developed this persona to make sure no one else sees this accusation is true, and it becomes your whole life. And it gives you great energy and great focus, and this insecurity is like rocket fuel to make sure that you can succeed in the world by not being you. But it all comes at great expense, and eventually it catches up with you. And this is where most of my conversations are with exhausted people, somewhere in the midlife season where all this energy and effort of not being themselves is catching up with them, and now they're in a lot of pain. And I think that's a great time to examine these hidden and unresolved insecurities.
So you said it comes with a lot of expense. What are those expenses? How does it lead to pain? Right? How is the rocket fuel not a positive thing?
Well, let's be pragmatic rather than saying people should or shouldn't be insecure. Like, it is rocket fuel, and that's a great way to describe it because, like you described, the drivenness causes you to achieve amazing things, and you wouldn't achieve them if you were not driven. I think the best sports stars are some of the most insecure people, but it drives them. Some of the richest people are some of the most insecure because it just drives them. They don't understand the word no. They don't respect their own personal boundaries. They don't need to sleep. Like they just find a way because they have to. It's life and death. So let's not say that's good or bad, right or wrong. Let's just say that's one of the impacts of insecurity. However, that requires the abundant energy of youth. So when you're a young person, you do have excess energy. You don't have to be an efficient human being to succeed. You can steal from Peter to pay Paul. You can pull all-nighters. You can smash Red Bulls. You can caffeinate yourself. You can use drugs. You just bounce back. But the older you get, you don't have the luxury of room for inefficiencies anymore. And so you're still driving all your best energy to proving and defending yourself, and now you've got no margins. Like that is weakening you to the point of madness. It doesn't look pretty. Like it looks like you're now the insecure wanker in the room. Like the neediness it repels people. The drivenness, it's not healthy. Like
I feel like you're describing me.
Well, it breaks you down, and madness is my favorite way of describing it. It's a strong word. It's the right word. Unresolved insecurity weakens a person to the point of madness. It gets in you, and it tears you apart, and you can't think straight, you can't feel straight, you don't know what's up or down, right or wrong. You lose yourself completely, and therefore it's going to affect all your relationships, your health, your ability to think clearly, solve problems. Like it becomes messy.
Yeah, so I mean that's realistically that's what happened to me. So I was that crazy guy working all of the time, and I think because I thought that would lead to happiness, but at the end of the day, I was miserable. And as I got older, I couldn't really handle what I was doing anymore, and that led to constant burnout. I actually started, like I said before, I started having panic attacks. My drinking kind of started getting out of control. But I can remember, and I actually had conversations with both my therapist and my business coach about this. I remember a deep fear that I guess fixing a lot of these insecurities would then completely kill my motivation, right? Like I would lose my edge, and then my business would fall over, all of that kind of stuff. And in some ways it's actually true. Like I feel like I've healed a lot of that kind of insecurities, but I don't have the motivation. Like I recently, was approached for somebody wanting to purchase my business, and I'm only 35, right? And the number wasn't enough that I would retire, not by any means. And I just remember like thinking about whether I'm going to do it or not, and the answer was no. And the main answer was no, because like I can't start again. I do not have it in me anymore. I don't have the drive I used to have. So I would love to kind of get your opinion on the motivation aspect, and is that a realistic outcome of actually fixing the insecurity problem?
It's one of the best questions I've been asked about this subject, because I think that is the unconscious fear. I can't afford to take away this rocket fuel because without it, I'll resort to less. This is why people resort to self-discipline too. So my latest book is called The Self-Permission Method, How to Succeed in Life Without Using Self-Discipline. But it speaks to this same fear. It's like, well, there's a part of me, if left to my natural devices, which would go backwards. So I have to manage myself, and I have to fight myself, and I have to force myself forward. Now, if what I'm saying is true about insecurity being a childhood opinion and an accusation, what child gets it right? So no matter what you've achieved off the back of that accusation, it's not accurate, it's not fair, it's not true, it's a misunderstanding. And if you were to think about, managing a human being from a place of mistrust, which is all self-discipline, it's like, I don't trust you, so I'm going to ride you. And you think that's peak performance? Whatever you're getting a person to achieve by managing them through mistrust, it pales into insignificance compared to what a trusted individual will do. So my own experience with myself is there's not 1 ounce of self-discipline in my world. I don't do a single thing I don't want to do. Everything is aligned. My head and my heart, my mind and my body. Like my past and my present, everything is pointed in the same direction. And my future is safe because I deeply trust and respect myself. And so what that looks like is greater performance than what I had by fighting against myself. And it might not look like as much activity, but the activity they take is far more efficient, is far more effective, is actually producing good in the world that's aligned with my values. So the net result is far greater when I have actually understood who I really am, rebuilt trust, and have everything pointed in the same direction. So that's a big hypothesis for people to go, yeah, but I'm achieving such a high level by fighting myself. You're telling me if I end the war, it's going to be better. Well, gee, that's a big risk. Sure, it is. That's why people don't do the work. But
yeah, I mean, the other one is like the reality is you might not have a choice at some point, right? Like your effectiveness is going to be greatly diminished by burnout.
Well, that is a good point. And I find, a big part of the book that I wrote with self-permission is that I find a person's unconscious mind sabotages them because there's so much bullshit happening. They're like, you're a crazy person, you're out of control, so I will take it out of your hands. I will grind you to a halt. You're out of control. You're leading us, into ruin. So, okay, I'm going to pull you up. I'm going to give you burnout, breakdown, some chronic illness, some depression. So yeah, I think sometimes it does get taken out of your hands as an act of love from the best of you going, can we end this madness, please? Like, could we sort this out? So yeah, I see that happen to people all the time. It's like fuses get pulled out of their brain. They can't access creativity or, motivation or drive from themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I like to think about is like, what's the actual goal there? Let's say like you don't want to give the rocket fuel away because you want to keep succeeding. But I guess what's the goal of success? Is it you think that happiness is on the other side of success? Whereas like you've already moved the goalpost 15 times, right? Like you thought, when the business revenue is 1 million, I'd be happy. When the business revenue is 2.5 million, but then you get there and you're not happy. So you move the goalposts again. So realistically, like by fixing this issue, you can be happy with less. And I think that's a hard thing for people to accept. But I mean, I think that's what happened to me, right? And you spoke about living in alignment with your values. I mean, my life's split into, I guess, 4 parts now. If you looked at me in my mid-20s, it was be the guy who builds a big business, right? And now it's, Luke, the father and husband, Luke, the fitness enthusiast, Luke, the adventurer, and Luke, the entrepreneur. And without a doubt, in that one bucket of being an entrepreneur, I'm not as successful, but I'm happier because I've got all those other buckets I'm filling up. Yeah, I wonder whether you've got any response to that?
Well, it's such a great point because yes, you've got rocket fuel, but where the bloody hell is the rocket heading? Like, careful what you wish for, you might actually get it.
Yeah,
that there isn't like you've never even understood what it is you're chasing because what you're chasing is to try and not be you. So even if you were to get there, it's not happiness. So you don't want to go there anyway. What you want is to understand who you are and operate in alignment with that. That is the point, to be happy. So, yeah, if it looks different, of course it will when you understand who you are. But that would make more sense to have all your energy pointed towards a goal that is in line with what is happiness and peace and truth to you, rather than chasing something because you're trying to prove you're a good person by meeting a certain number. And even when you get there, it doesn't actually make you happy. So that's madness.
Can you talk about the insecurity of insecurity?
People are insecure about being insecure. Well, it's great. Like, I go to a conference or I'm in a networking event, and it's like, what do you do, Jaemin? Like, I was on a flight coming home from Adelaide recently, and I said, "Oh, okay, mate, how's it going? What do you do?" He says, I'm just out of job. I've been working in this industry for 20 years, and I'm really broken down, and really don't know who I am. In fact, I've moved back home. I'm so lost, and I'm in between stuff, so that's honestly who I am. He says, who are you? I said, I'm Jaemin. I help people with insecurities. Like, bloody hell, is this a trap? Like, there should have been some disclosure before you asked me this question. Now I'm exposed. Now I've revealed myself. And so I find it's such an offensive and confronting place to start. And it's the last thing people...
Like, what's the resistance? Because I definitely had that resistance initially, right? And there was a lot of getting over that. What do you think that resistance about actually confronting insecurities is?
Well, because
is
people
based on?
are so caught up in the strategy of proving that they're good that you're kind of highlighting that the emperor has no clothes on. You're highlighting that it's not actually working. They still feel inadequate. It's still just
the
beneath the
rockets in the wrong
surface.
direction. Yeah.
It's not actually working. So you're calling the fear, and they're trying so hard to prove they're not afraid. No, I'm confident. Look at me. I'm successful. Look at me. I'm a good person. Look at me. And you're saying, well, yeah, but underneath that, you're all insecure. No, I'm not insecure. Don't say that. Like, it's already, I've failed if I'm insecure. I'm putting on a front to show that I've got it together. So I think it just highlights the thing that people least want to think about. And it's kind of why I find myself talking to exhausted people most, because they're like, I'm done fighting. I'm done pretending. Yeah, you're right. I'm a mess. I'm insecure. This is not going well. You tell me you can fix it. Okay. Yeah, great. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah. So I've got a quote here from one of your books. Insecurity may be the thing driving up your performance in your 20s. Why does that run out? Is it what we spoke about? Is it just as the body gets older, or what's the main reason for people getting to that point of exhaustion?
Well, I think sport is just a great example of this. So the best athletes are the most insecure. They're the ones that have just found a way to harness that energy to do things to their body that no one else will do. So they are just finely tuned machines because of their drivenness to succeed. So great, that's good when you're 20. So now you're 35. You've been playing in the league since you were 18, achieved great things, but now you as a 35-year-old are competing against 18-year-olds. And it's like, this ends badly for you at 35. You are in a limited capacity to perform at that level. And I can do it, and I can fight the clock, and I can still, but your body's slowing down whether you want it to or not, and people are noticing. And so I think just purely physiologically, your body has less energy when you age. It is wearing down. So you cannot keep up the speed with which you run when you're young. So, okay, that's going to be the problem number one. But, there's a whole bunch of other things. You are becoming more aware of your position in the timeline that you exist. So you're like, when I'm young, midlife is so far down the road. I'll sort that out later. I've got plenty of time. You approach midlife, you're like, hang on a minute. Like, I'm almost at halfway and I haven't sorted a bunch of this stuff, or I haven't achieved a certain amount of things, or I'm behind where I thought I was going to be. If I don't sort some stuff out now, it's not going to automatically take care of itself. So I think, yeah, you've had more experience in your own skin. You've watched your own patterns. You've seen the promises you've made to yourself that have gone unfulfilled. You're dealing with more data. And more realistic about where you actually are in life when you get to 35.
So another thing I've heard you speak about is separating worth from achievement, right? So if someone's been getting their worth from achievement their whole life, where does that worth come from moving forward?
Yeah, well, it's a strategy that is unavoidable. Like, a child realizes that they need significance. They need love. I love Tony Robbins' 6 Core Needs. I think it's his finest contribution to the personal development space. Although the first version that he had of it, I reckon it's been diluted over the years to be more palatable, but that's another conversation. So the child kind of realizes, I need certainty, I need variety, I need significance, I need love. And they realize they can't provide that for themselves, so they have to outsource it. They've got to go, well, parents, you've got to give me that stuff. So what have I got to do to get what I need? They become aware they're in a transactional model. You can't do nothing and get what you need. You've got to behave, perform, fit in. And so I think it's logical that every person finds themselves in this kind of performance exchange in some way, shape or form. And it works until it doesn't. It's like, it's great if everyone plays the game with you, you behave, they give you, they reward you. You perform, they cheer. It's all good and well until it breaks down somewhere. You perform and they stop cheering, or you can't perform anymore. Then what do you do? So, I think the aim of the game is the role of adult is to become self-sufficient. You work out how to dress yourself and feed yourself and finance yourself and drive a car and okay, keep going. You must also work out how to validate yourself, how to love yourself, how to see yourself, for you to be the one that resources yourself psychologically and emotionally. Because whenever you outsource that to your world, it's going to get very precarious, very dangerous. Everyone else has all the power to control your emotional state, your sense of self. So, wow, you're going to have to keep performing, and that's going to be hard when you get older. So look out.
So how do you determine someone's readiness for change?
Pain to me is probably the key indicator. I don't think young people don't have enough pain. I think sometimes elderly people have too much pain. There's something about, coming into your mid-30s, mid-late 30s, where the pain starts to escalate. You start telling the truth. You start noticing things.
So what do you mean by pain? Like a lack of happiness? I mean, how would you?
Yeah, all kinds of things. So it's typically some kind of existential. Yeah, I am not happy, and I thought I would be happy. I thought the thing I'm chasing would have made me happy. It's not. Yeah. And I've had 4 attempts at this, and none of them have made me happy. And then I thought this person I'm in a relationship with would make me happy. They're not making me happy. And then I've had a kid, and I thought that would make. Hang on, none of the things that I thought would work have worked. That's painful to consider, but it is true. So I think it's just the realization that it's not working. This human life you're living, whatever success you've achieved, you're not actually fulfilled and happy, which is exactly what you described. That's the pain.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And I think that's like I started, like I said, I was working myself. I was constantly burned out, and then that led to me starting to have big panic attacks, and then I couldn't stop it, right? And then that led to antidepressants, and then that kind of kicked me back up and kept me going for a while. And then my alcohol consumption started going up. Like there were just these constant things that kept popping up that I was using, I guess, to mask my lack of happiness until it got to a point where I was like, well, none of this is working, right? And then I think getting sober and like from everything really made me figure out, I need to do something about what's actually causing this pain, right? Rather than continuously masking it. So what do we do? So once we're at that point, we're in pain. We've identified we're not happy. And that shows in a variety of ways. Like you said, the main one is just a feeling of not being happy. Maybe you're drinking too much. Maybe you're miserable in your job. Your life hasn't turned out how you wanted it to. What do we do?
Well, I love thinking about this like the hero's journey. You're familiar with Joseph Campbell's metaphor of the hero's journey?
No.
He wrote a book in the 50s called A Hero with 1,000 Faces, and it was his attempt at deconstructing storytelling throughout time. Why do we love some stories? What do some stories touch our hearts and motivate us and move us, and other stories we kind of forget? And he discovered that all the stories we love, it's actually the same story. He called it the hero's journey. There were 12 key phases of the hero's journey, and Hollywood picked up on his model and then deliberately wrote scripts that mirrored that, which was smart, right? So it's Lord of the Rings, it's Star Wars, it's Harry Potter, it's the Karate Kid. It's a small, weak person, and for whatever reason says yes to a call to adventure, and they don't really know what they're saying yes to, but for whatever reason, then now there's something calls to them and they say yes. And then they meet a wisdom character. There's a Gandalf, there's a Yoda, there's a Dumbledore, there's a Mr. Miyagi, and that wisdom character, equips them for the journey. But eventually, the hero is going to have to go do the thing they can't do. Eventually, every hero is on a journey to meet their fear face on. And Joseph Campbell says the treasure you seek is also in the cave that you fear. So, it's going to get dark. So back to what do we do? I think if everyone's honest, there are moments in time where the wind changes. Like there's a waft of something. You read a book, you hear a podcast, you hear a song, you have a conversation. Something just comes across your awareness, and it's different. And if you pay attention to that, there's always opportunities to get out of the prison that you're in. So that's where it always starts. And then I think if you could understand what insecurity really is, if you never understand what it is, you wouldn't even begin tackling it. You would just think it's too big, it's too hard, it is a monster. But just that one idea of going, it's not a monster, it's just the idea of a monster. And this is what parents do instinctively with their children's fears. A kid comes in to mum and dad in the middle of the night, afraid of a monster under the bed, some version of that, and the parent knows there's not actually a monster. It's just the idea of a monster. The kid has already gone from idea to it's concrete, it's there. They haven't looked yet, they haven't verified it. They've gone idea, truth. And so that's all the same with our own insecurity. It's just an opinion problem. Like we formed an opinion. If you look up the dictionary, opinion is the lowest form of knowing anything. It's the most fragile form of knowing, and that is insecurity. As a child, you have an opinion about your difficulty, your dilemma, your difference from the world, and that opinion is against yourself. And then that opinion becomes concrete. It forms a bias in your mind. You form evidence to back it up, and then it becomes true. But you've never actually had a look under the bed all the way back to the beginning to see if your foundation is accurate. You've never once. You've just lived as though it is, and you're running and hiding, proving and defending. So if you can actually see that what you're dealing with is not a monster, it's just the idea of a monster, straight away you're like, okay, maybe it's not going to be as hard as I thought. Maybe it's not as real. I think it is because I got all this evidence, but maybe something can be done. And then if you can realize that this opinion you've got of yourself is your own doing, we're not the actor in the story, we're the storyteller. So everyone's got moments in their past where they can remember words spoken about them or to them. Someone's said something mean or cruel or unkind, or someone's told us we'll never do something, and it feels like that's where these low opinions form. When dad criticised, when a brother teased, when a bully did this. But Don Miguel Ruiz really helped me understand this, the 4 agreements. He says, you're going to know that it's not the words spoken to you or about you that change your lives. It's just the ones you agree with. So it turns out, it's not that the teacher said you're stupid. It's that when she said you were stupid, you agreed. So you were the one that locked in your own idea. She couldn't do that for you. Just like, your mum telling you you're awesome all the time didn't change your life either because you never agreed with her. So when you kind of see it's an opinion problem and you were the one that created it, and if you heard anyone else's version of this, you would know they got it wrong. So likewise, you as a child, how could you possibly know who you were or what's right or wrong? You made a mistake about you too. And your most important adult work is to go back there to that child and have the conversation that child has been waiting to have their whole life, and to change your mind about what you assumed was wrong with you. So when you can see it like that, it's like, hang on, there's a way through here. There's a path.
Yeah.
I could actually solve this problem.
I wonder how many, when they're in that pain state, right, ready for change, I wonder how conscious people are of their opinions about themselves, right? Are they even aware? I don't think I was,
No.
What I like to talk about is being intentional in life, or letting life drag you along. And I think most people are being dragged, and they're not even aware of their internal dialogue, how they see themselves, how they speak to themselves. So I think, for me, the first step was actually understanding where this pain's coming from. And I think the pain was coming from the way I spoke to myself, the way I saw myself subconsciously, and bringing that to awareness on a regular basis. For me, I'm a big meditator, and that was a huge first step for me. But do you think most people are actually conscious that this is the issue? Because from what I've seen, and whether people are doing this consciously or not, a lot of the blame gets put on external sources. I'm not happy because this person did this happened to me. And it's extremely confronting to turn around and go, actually, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's the way I treat myself is the problem. And admitting that yeah, to some people just seems kind of, I don't know, almost impossible, right?
And it's exactly how it feels, and you're right. And like I find like my whole world is like coaxing scared kittens out from under the lounge with a saucer of milk. I got to dial down the angst before I can even begin. Like it's scary and it's
Yeah.
daunting, and people are not even aware, and they're either blaming someone else or they're behavior managing themselves to try and fix it. Like the deepest level of this is so hard and so scary. So I find the most important way that I dial down the angst and speak to intrigue and then get intention to use the word is to gamify it. So I love gamification, which is to apply game structure to things that don't look like games. So to go, all right, what if this insecurity thing was a really beautiful game? Be like, how? What do you mean? So my best example of this is I grew up in church world, and youth groups were a big part of my teenage years, and we're always playing games. And I can remember one game when I was probably 15 or 16, being blindfolded and put in the back of a ute with a bunch of other teenagers, and we're driven around the national park that one of the families had land that bordered the park, driven around for an hour, and then randomly dropped one by one out into the bush and told, wait 5 minutes before you take the blindfold off and then see if you can work out how to get home. And so you think, that's a really dangerous game. But it turns out it's only dangerous if you forget it's a game. Because you'll be anxious and overwhelmed and think, oh no, I'm lost and confused and I shouldn't be and I'm in danger. But all you have to do is remember that your youth group leaders don't want to go to jail, so it won't be there for their advantage if you die. So therefore they haven't dropped you somewhere they don't think you can return from. Because they haven't driven you around for an hour and put you in the neighbour's paddock so that when you take your blindfold off, you can see the laundry door through the bushes. Because that'd be a shit setup. Like they actually want you to feel lost and confused. That's the point. They want you to then feel adrenaline and excitement because they're banking on you finding something inside you that goes, I reckon I can work this out and solve it like a problem and climb a tree and get to the top of a hill and navigate, because they know if you can do that, you'll access these resources that you didn't know you had, and you'll go on this adventure and you'll find out how to get home, and the return will be meaningful. And that'll be an experience you'll never forget. And so the setup is I'm going to deliberately make them lost and confused. Really, not just pretend, actually lost and confused. So if you think about the game of life, everyone comes into their 20s and like their late teenage years into their 20s lost and confused. No one survives their childhood without some limiting belief about themselves. But most people, when they realise they're lost and confused, feel like that disqualifies them from a happy life. Like if only I wasn't lost and confused, then I could begin. But I'm so lost and confused and overwhelmed and anxious, so that sucks to be me. And if only I'd had better experiences or not these ones, if only I didn't have the wounds of my childhood, I'd be okay. But you go, no, that's not the tragedy, that's the setup. Like, great, you're lost and confused, brilliant. Now the game can begin. Now you're actually lost and confused, not just pretend, but now the game is this. Can you find your way home? Can you go on a journey of discovering the beginning? Because that's the hero's journey. A man or a woman searches the whole world for hidden treasure only to discover it was with them all along. It's always a journey home. So when I frame it like that and go, it's a beautiful game. And if you were designing a game for someone you love to make them whole and perfect and have them achieve their potential, you couldn't come up with a better design. You would make sure they got lost and confused in their childhood. You would put insecurity in as much as you can. You'd load it up. You wouldn't shelter them from it. You wouldn't somehow make them miss that square on the board. You'd make sure they came into their 20s and 30s so lost and confused, putting so much energy, and then they could begin. So when I explain it like that, people go, that's intriguing. And they lean in.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think, I don't know, for me, it sounds like the hardest part of your job would potentially be convincing people they have agency in repairing this, right?
Of course, they think it happened to me and I wish it didn't. And so the game, first of all, goes, well, even perfect parents don't prevent their child having insecurity. So some of my most insecure clients have had the best parents. And that's very, very useful for people to understand.
Yeah.
Like you could...
That's interesting.
Imagine like being born into a home with intellectual giants, with wise parents, with good people, good humans who have developed themselves, who've built successful businesses, who've written books. Imagine you're an infant into that world. Like, how are you not going to compare yourself unfavorably against beautiful people? Like, you think, how could I ever be like that? They know everything. They're always right. They're loving. And me, I'm just nobody. So you will be very insecure by comparing yourself to wonderful people. Just like you'll be horribly insecure if you have absent parents that don't give you anything and abandon you, like leave you to your own. And you're better off having parents that half-ass their way through and, you know, do their best but are pretty ordinary. Then you kind of assume you could do it better anyway. But it's all, if you can just see 20s. That, if you can see that no one survives, like, and if you're a parent, you wouldn't want to prevent your child from being insecure. They will have experiences that they have to put meaning to, and they will assume the problem's them, and you cannot protect them from that, and you wouldn't want to if you could. Your biggest gift to them as a parent is to demonstrate you found your way home, so when they're ready, they can too. And it's a beautiful game, and this is why I love Matthew Perry's book. Have you read or listened to Matthew Perry's autobiography?
No.
It's Matthew Perry, the Friends star.
Yeah, I know. My wife was reading it. It's on our kitchen bench, I think.
Well, it sat on the list of my most recommended books for nearly 12 months, and it's also the single worst book I've ever read. It is so painful and horrible to read. But the reason why I love it so much is it is the best example I've ever come across of what happens if you misunderstand the game. What happens if you go through your whole life thinking the problem's this and missing that life didn't happen to you, it happened for you, and it's a setup, and then the world gives you everything. You get fame and fortune, and still that's not enough to make you happy. Like, it's just, if anyone was ever unsure that, you know, if I was just rich, I'd be happy. If I dated Julia Roberts, I'd be happy. Well, just watch what happens if you don't understand the insecurity. This goes
problem. Back to like, this goes back to, it's in a weird way. It's not that his life is not enough. It's that he's solving the insecurity problem with the wrong solution. He's pointing the rocket in the wrong direction.
Exactly, because his setup, his parents separated when he was 1. He lived with his mum for the first 5 years in Canada. His dad was in LA. All he craved was his dad. His dad was absent. And then on his 5th birthday, his dad says, "You can come stay with me." But rather than come and picking him up, he sends money for a plane ride. And so his mum puts him on a plane with this wooden unaccompanied minor sign chained to his neck. That's what he wanted to call the book, Unaccompanied Minor. And so as a 5-year-old, he's like, what the bloody hell is happening here? Like, everyone else is with loving family. Everyone I'm flying over is being tucked into bed with loving parents. Here I am, an unaccompanied minor in this crazy death machine with turbulence, and I'm all alone in the world. Clearly you don't do this to things that matter. And so that was the defining moment of his life, where he went, I thought I had value. Clearly I have none. And everyone who says they love you is moments away from abandoning you. And so he's like, that's true. And I'm sure it's true. So now I will do everything to make sure no one else knows that about me. He tells stories of dating the most glamorous women, but knowing eventually you say you love me, but eventually you'll abandon me because I'm worthless. So what I'll do is I'll get in first. I'll abandon you before you abandon me. So just this train wreck of horrible experiences, ruining relationships unnecessarily, all this rocket fuel to be famous and rich, to prove I'm good, because if I don't do that, then you'll see who I really am and I'm worthless. And it never all of a misunderstanding.
Desperately unhappy.
That wasn't even about you, Matthew. Understand your parents had their own stuff going on. That sign didn't say anything. It was your agreement with that sign that ruined your life. So
do you think this is curable, or is it an ongoing battle that we just get better at dealing with? And I'll give you another anecdote from my own life. Like at the moment, my life is in a very good space. I've got a good mix between those 4 buckets that I spoke about earlier. But I find myself occasionally these feelings coming back up, right? And I get very close to self-sabotaging myself, right? Like last year I did an Ironman, and the training for that was extremely intense, and I got to points where I was burnt out, and I was actually a few of the other, I dropped the ball on a few other aspects of my life. And recently I almost signed up to this, ridiculous ultra marathon, and once and my usual go-to is just sign up and figure it out. And I had a really deep think about this when I think I was signing up to prove to people that I still had it and that I'm enough. And I know that the training for this would sabotage my relationship with my family, the operations in my business, all of these other things. So I did come to the conclusion that I think that's some form of self-sabotage there, and I caught it before I dove in. And so what I'm getting at is, like, is this ever curable, or do we just get better at dealing with it on a day-to-day basis?
The personal development industry language is, you slowly make progress incrementally over time. I'm learning to love myself. I'm getting kinder on myself. But it's all self-deceptive, because when you understand that insecurity is all built on a very precise singularity, like one moment in time, the very first time I was disappointed, surprised, upset, embarrassed, I accused myself of being the reason, and then I doubled down on accusation. So all my insecurity is tied to a single moment in time. Well, then you go, well, hang on a minute, then what's this slowly getting better at it? It's like, did I get it right or not? Like it demands a resolution. It's like if someone had been in prison for 30 years accused of a crime, and a pro bono lawyer reopens the case, they're aiming for an outcome, a resolution. They're not going, well, the judge goes, yeah, we'll kind of think about this. We'll consider treating you differently over the next 50 years. It's like, no. Like, did I do it or not? That's what I want you to prove. Set me free or put me back into jail. Like, which one? And so the same way, insecurity is built on a moment in time, and your job is to completely change your mind so that there is no structure it can sit on anymore. This is the unhindered life. Now, the distinction is that when you solve it at one level of growth, you then are unhindered, and you will move forward, and you'll take new territory. You will go play in the world. You'll say yes to things you previously didn't. And then your world will get more complex, and you'll take on new challenges, and you'll say yes to things you'd never done before. And so invariably, you'll bang your head on the next limiting belief. You go, I'm good enough for this,
okay,
but am I good enough for that? I'm relaxed about myself here, but could I be relaxed about myself there? And so in the same way, you get an invitation to go back and discover there was another moment in time where you decided this was about you. And it wasn't as insidious or as toxic as the main one that you first did, but still, it's an invitation to come and find yourself again and to completely know who you are. So I think life always presents us opportunities to get bumped off course, and then to come find our way home again. And we get better at that and faster at that, and in the process discover more and more amazing things about ourselves. So yes, it is completely solvable, but then you will find it shows up again, but it's not exactly the same. It's a similar idea, and you solve it with the same principles, but you've spiraled up the mountain and grown to a better person, and so it's similar, but you're higher now. So that's how I think about it.
Yeah, so you did already answer this question, but I just want to kind of come at it with a different angle. So those limiting beliefs we have, or those opinions on ourselves that were formed when we were young, a child, I just want to really dive into what is the mechanism to solve that? Is it, first of all, accepting that, you have these opinions, then identifying where these opinions come from, and then is it just basically from a logical point of view, actually having that really introspection, or looking at it logically and going, okay, these are actually false beliefs, and then does a switch flick? Like, is that the method? Identifying where they came from, realizing they are false, and then moving forward. Is that? I know that's an oversimplification, but I'm trying to. A
lovely question. Thank you for bringing me back there, because again, the industry is like, it's just believe, or just affirm, or just affirmations on your mirror, or try and solve it from this end. Don't worry about the past. Just from now, repeat lovely opinions of yourself. I'm convinced you have to go back to the beginning because you are so sure that's still true and it's still solid. It's locked in as a structure for your life. So you have to go back to the beginning. I suggest you'd have to be ready for 5 things. And primarily they are a thinking exercise. It is rational. It is adult. It's logical. The first thing is you would have to be ready to be wrong. So that's a big deal. Like, people don't like being wrong. But specifically to go, oh my goodness, what if I'm wrong about the very essence of who I've always thought I was? Because all my behavior has been trying to not be this, to not be seen as weak, to not be seen as stupid, to not be seen as boring, to not be seen as worthless. I've tried so hard. But what if this foundational idea that I've had about myself is wrong? Okay, are you actually ready to be wrong about that? If you're not ready to be wrong, nothing can be done. Mark Manson says all change is preceded by being wrong about something. So until you're ready to be wrong, you will stay being right with the things you've always been right about. So that's one. Number 2 is, are you then ready to review? Okay, that is a conscious, rational adult going back into your past. That is a rehashing of memories. That is a revisiting of your childhood. And people say, oh, I don't remember. I don't have a good memory. No, you have deliberately, intentionally hidden parts because they are so charged and you are afraid of them and you do not want to see them. But when you can see that's an act of unkindness to yourself, you have locked yourself out in the cold. You have accused yourself and treated yourself like a villain, and now you're suggesting that you're wrong. Well, then you will have to go and have a clear look, an adult look, and that rational review of the defining moment, what you said it meant, and an analysis of an alternate scenario. Just like you would with any other person's story you hear, you'd go, there are 10 other different versions of that. Like, your childhood mind around this wooden sign around my neck proves that I'm worthless. It's not the only narrative that could be told around why that happened and what it meant about you. You do realise that. So everyone else could see clearly your story, but could you see it yourself? Could you be objective about it? Ready to be wrong, ready to review. Then you would have to be ready to apologise. And betrayal is the right word. You have betrayed yourself repeatedly. Theoretically, you could have come back earlier and reviewed this data. So you've held out on yourself for years, treated yourself like a villain, all based on a misunderstanding. And so you will require a thorough apology when you realise you've been wrong and you have been the one accusing yourself of things that aren't true, without overcomplicating it. I love frameworks, and there are 4 stages to an effective apology. So there is some structure to that. It's not just, oh, I said sorry. So there's some logic there. Ready to be wrong, ready to review, ready to apologise, ready to reconcile. So I talk to lots of people that almost carry their childhood wounds like trophies. They don't actually want to reconcile them. They want to have them as marks that they can go back to and use anytime they need. The point is, have we had all the conversations about that moment in the classroom or with your uncle or when that bully or what, like all the stuff to change your mind so that memory no longer has any charge to it anymore? It's now just a thing that happened. It doesn't define you, and you can actually move on. You can grow up. You're not stuck there anymore. Like when people talk about their inner child, they're just saying there's a period of woundedness you are still stuck in. I don't feel like any parts of my past are childish. There's adult parts of me. Everything's grown up, reconciled, integrated. Ready to be wrong, ready to apologise. Sorry, ready to review, ready to apologise, ready to reconcile. And then are you ready to begin again? Are you ready to go out into the world and play, knowing that you may in fact misunderstand yourself or think the worst of yourself, but you now have the way of coming back home and knowing who you are. So it's not like you have to be fragile and wrap yourself in cotton wool and never try anything. You now have a place to keep this relationship clean with yourself. So that's the structure I think about. It is very logical, but it's very adult. And that to me is the point of being adult. You use your best adult skills to bear on yourself. You don't need some magic trick, some hypnosis, some psychedelic trip to escape this work. It's your job. You were the one that agreed with this opinion. You accused yourself. Okay. Until you consciously, rationally, intelligently change your mind, it will always be locked in your psyche as the truth about you.
Okay, so I'm going to put my business hat on here. I mean, what you've just spoken about a lot is what I would call strategy. let's talk about execution. Okay, I know I need to do this work. I'm in pain. I'm unhappy. I kind of know how to do it. But how do I actually make it happen? Like realistically, do I just map out a day where I sit there and really work on this stuff? From your experience, do we need to get external help like a coach, on a weekly basis? Like, do you have any execution tips to ensure that we're actually going to do this?
So all you really need is objectivity, because it's a misunderstanding. You got it wrong, but it's very difficult to be objective on your own. We're subjective creatures. So in the 7 essential practices for overcoming insecurity, practice 5 is get help from someone who doesn't care about you. I'm convinced the hero needs a guide. Like, you got to find someone who knows the way without them getting in the way. So you don't need someone to rescue you. No one's coming to save you. You don't need someone to encourage you, believe in you, hold you accountable. You need someone who can help you get outside of your own head and look back in objectively. So I think you must find a coach. You must find someone who can hold a clean space and help you review the data when you're ready. I don't think you can do it on your own. And that's why I love the hero's journey, because it kind of highlights the role of the wisdom character. You think when you see Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, you think Gandalf's going to save the day. Gandalf isn't going to save the day. Like, he's just preparing Frodo. And you're like, how could Frodo save the day? He's a freaking hobbit from the Shire. But that's the whole point. Weak person becomes strong through the help of a wisdom character. So, yes, execution is logically going to think about it. And then it's going to get overwhelming and messy in your mind, and you're going to be afraid. And so I think you will find the need to find an external facilitator who can hold a space and not get invested. That's a hard one to find, because everyone wants something from you or for you. You think you're going to need a caring person who's going to believe in you, but then you'll just outsource to their opinion of you. Like, it's not anyone else's opinion. It's your opinion. That's the problem. So I love that for people. I say you're going to think you're going to need someone who cares, but don't confuse me for someone who gives a shit about you. Like, I'm not losing any sleep. I'm not the one in pain. I'll forget about you. I'll show up wholeheartedly to get you the result, but you've got to want it, because me wanting it for you won't solve it. It'll get in the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, from my experience, that can look like a coach. That can look like somebody else, like a paid coach. That can look like somebody else in your life that you speak to, and you can tell that they've done this kind of thing, and you've just got to, attach yourself to that kind of person.
It's hard to find, because sometimes the therapist is just as insecure as you, and they've found a way to hide. It's true, and it's a risk. They've been insulated from doing the work on themselves by being the expert and hiding in plain sight. So you will have to find someone who can hold the space, because I find I'm in the certainty business. Like, when people look into my eyes and they hear my voice, they're testing, is this guy full of shit? Like, has this guy actually done this? Is there any evidence this is possible? Because when it gets hard and they get scared, they do not want to find fear or uncertainty in my eyes. Like, they want to know that they can go all the way. And if I haven't been there, then I'm just guessing, and I will let them down in the crucial moment, because I'm assuming they can, but I haven't done it myself.
Yeah, that's interesting. That goes back to needing to prove to them, or them needing to understand that they've got agency, because they'll do everything to resist that, the reality of it. Okay, got one more thing I just wanted to chat about before we finish this up. So I've got kids, right? Should I be doing something as a parent, or let's not talk about me generically, is there something parents should be doing to, I guess, not instill such a deep level? Or at the end of the day, is it healthy so they can go through their own hero's journey at some point?
I mean, I've already said you can't prevent it, and you wouldn't want to even if you could. But in saying that, you wouldn't want to be reckless, or, well, what does it matter then? I'll just half-ass my way through. I'll be a terrible parent. So you're going to bring your heart and soul and try not to hurt your children, and yet you will not be able to you can't be their sense maker. They will make their own sense. and they're on their own journey. So I think it's inevitable that every person I talk to about going back into their childhood then thinks about their own children and the childhood they're having. You can't avoid that. So I would say the only real way is to demonstrate it's possible to find your way home. Let them watch you. Let them watch you. Let that be their certainty, that they see you operating from a place of security. So you're not using them for your validation. You're not putting your life on hold to put all your energy into having them succeed, because they'll kind of realize that, their success is about the parent. It's about the parent trying to prove they're a good person by making their kids achieve a certain thing. It's a very unkind thing to do. So I think if you can prove that you're not using your children for your own validation and you found your way home, whatever your kid's going through, then that will serve them well when they go, I know it's possible because I watch my own folks do that themselves.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that. Jaemin, is there anything you want to plug? Any direction you want to point people in?
I mean, when you're ready, the Unhindered Experience is my offering. 6 months. It's I don't know how that sounds to people, but there's a bit of work to do, and I love the 6 month chunk of time to go. You can expect transformation there. It's not 6 years, but it's not 6 weeks either. So the Unhindered Experience is my thing, and it's a very clear and precise process around the 7 essential practices. So. But there's books and resources and podcasts wherever you are on the journey of thinking about this, to help you understand that insecurity is a solvable problem, and there is a way out of your prison in your own mind, in your own fears.
Hell yeah! Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Luke. That was great.
Cheers.